Well, I've been around for 62 years, so there's a little bit of history here. I was raised as a child of a career Air Force officer. So I grew up around the world. I went to three different high schools, one in Hawaii, one in Turkey. I graduated from an American high school in Kaiserslautern, Germany. Um, I enlisted in the Army after graduation because I think being from a military background, given the fact that it was the Cold War, the fact that I graduated from a high school in Germany, right across the border was the Soviet threat. I felt a desire, a need to serve my country, and I left the army, went to college, got my degree in Russian history, and then was commissioned as an officer in the Marines. I went into the intelligence field. I served in combat arms units, training to fight the Soviet threat. In 1987, Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev signed the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty to get rid of entire classes of nuclear weapons. The Department of Defense was tasked with creating an inspection agency to go in and implement this treaty. And the Marine Corps was tasked with providing officers who spoke Russian and knew something about Russia. Um, but they also wanted people who had the rank of major or lieutenant colonel. I was a lieutenant at the time. But the database showed that they didn't have anybody. I got selected for the job, and so as a junior lieutenant, I was sent off to the Soviet Union to implement arms control treaties. I did a very good job. I have to say I enjoyed the work. I was successful at it. Got a couple classified commendations from the director of the CIA. The Marine Corps viewed my work with great importance. And when I left that job, I went back to the Marine Corps right in time for Saddam Hussein to invade Kuwait. And I got caught up in the war. I ended up serving on General Schwarzkopf's staff in Riyadh, where, because of my background as a weapons inspector, a missile inspector, I was given the task of trying to hunt down Iraqi Scud missiles that were firing into Israel and in the Arabian Peninsula. And that became my focus during the war. I worked with a variety of units, Special Forces unit, Air Force units, etc. Um, the war ended. At that time, I made a decision that my future would probably not be with the Marine Corps. The Cold War was over. I joined to kill Russians, and we weren't in the Russian killing business anymore. So I was going to get out and pursue civilian life, but I was called by the United Nations. Some of the officers whom I worked for uh, as a weapons inspector were now tasked with implementing the Security Council resolutions calling for the disarmament of Iraq. They were having trouble with the Iraqis. The Iraqis were lying. They weren't turning over what they should. And there was a need to create an intelligence organization within this inspection unit. And I was asked to come in and do this, to build an intelligence organization. Um, I did that. The job took on a life of its own. I became not just an intelligence collector or an assessor, but I became an inspector, an operator. I ran sort of a full service entity to collect information, evaluate it, inspect, come back. I did that for 7 years, leading some of the most controversial and confrontational inspections against the Iraqis. I resigned from my position in 1998, citing American interference in the work of the inspectors. And then from that point on, I became critical of American policy. Leading up to the 2003 decision to invade Iraq, I publicly made the case that there were no weapons of mass destruction left in Iraq worthy of an invasion, that Iraq had been fundamentally disarmed by the teams that I was involved in. We went to war anyways. I was proven to be correct. And then ever since then, I've taken upon myself to criticize U.S. policy where it needs to be criticized. I'm a very loyal American, patriotic American. I think I've shown I'm willing to die for my country. But the key aspect of being an American is to recognize what you're serving. You don't serve a president. You don't serve a government. You serve the people. And the people is best served by adherence to the Constitution of the United States of America. And when we have governments that implement policies that deviate from the principles, the values of the letter of the law, then it's the duty and responsibility of a patriotic American to speak out. And so that's what I do today. I speak out where needed. And right now, my focus of effort is on the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine, where I find American policy to be sadly wanting.